Mets Baseball 86. Brought to you by Michelob Light. Super premium taste and less filling beer. Who says you can't have it all? By Nissan, who invites you to test drive the new Go Anywhere Nissan Pathfinder at your Nissan dealer now. By manufacturers Hanover Trust. We realize your potential. By Burger King, where you'll find chicken tenders made with real chicken. By RC Cola. Some people go out of their way for the great taste of RC. By United Parcel Service. Whether it's for overnight letters or packages, UPS runs the tightest ship in the shipping business. By Shell SU-2000. It's unstoppable. And by your New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut Tri-State Lincoln Mercury dealers. Live from Shea Stadium in New York, WOR-TV presents New York Mets Baseball as this afternoon, the Mets take on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pitching for the Pirates, left-hander Hipólito Peña, who is 0-2 with a 7.36 ERA. And on the mound for the Mets, right-hander Ron Darling, 14-6 with an ERA of 2.87.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Tim McCarver and Steve Zabriskie, all set for the final game of the season. The Mets have one more record that they can tie in the National League. That would be 108 victories in the season. That would tie the 1975 Cincinnati Reds. But everybody looking ahead to the Houston Astros and the start of the playoffs. And there's a lot to be said about the Houston Astros, and a lot of it is awfully good.
As a matter of fact, both teams, Ralph, stack up very evenly with each other. As you see, the Mets have won 12 more games than the Astros, and the season series 7-5 were the Mets, 5-1 at Shea, and 2-4 at the Astrodome.
And the Mets, of course, leading the National League in hitting at 263. The Astros are behind them at 255. One of the things that's very interesting, the Mets scoring the most runs in the National League, 774 to 650 for the Astros, and they figure a win is about 10 runs. So the difference in runs would be the difference in the amount of wins you have over and above the other team.
And that's why the Mets have 12 more wins than the Astros. Let's take a look at the pitching of both clubs. Comparable, the Mets with 9 more complete games, but the Astros with 9 more shutouts, almost twice as many as the Mets have.
And, of course, the Astros have a strong strikeout staff, as they have the leader in strikeouts, and Mike Scott, a former Met, and then Nolan Ryan, of course, one of the greatest strikeout artists of all time, having more strikeouts than anybody in the history of baseball.
I think it's interesting to note also that the Houston Astros have given up 13 more home runs than the Mets have, and the Astrodome is the toughest home run ballpark in the major leagues, arguably in the major leagues.
Yeah, the wind always blows in the Astrodome. And we'll be back with the ball game and the lineups right after this word from Michelob Light. And defensively, the Mets have Keith Hernandez at first base, Wally Backman at second base, Rafael Santana playing shortstop, and Ray Knight playing third base. In left field, Howard Johnson, his first start in the outfield for the Mets, Len Dykstra in center field, and Darryl Strawberry in right. The catcher, Gary Carter, and Ron Darling doing the pitching. Darling with a record of 14-6, an earned run average of 2.87, fifth in the National League. He has walked 79, struck out 179, given up 201 hits in 232 innings. Ron Darling going for the Mets in the final tune-up.
And the Pittsburgh Pirates lineup, Joe Orsulak, the left fielder, batting first. Shortstop UL Washington batting second. Young Barry Bonds in center field hitting third. Sid Bream, the first baseman, batting fourth. Bobby Bonilla, the third baseman, hitting fifth. Vinny DeStefano in right field batting sixth. Sammy Khalifa, the second baseman this afternoon, batting seventh. Ruben Rodriguez, the young catcher, behind the plate and batting eighth. And Hipólito Peña is the pitcher, batting ninth.
Darling with a lifetime record against the Pirates of 5 wins and 2 losses. This year he has not won a game against Pittsburgh while losing one. And the Pirates going for victory number 108. They're in first place by 21.5 games over the Philadelphia Phillies. Joe Orsulak will lead it off. Joe hitting 249, 2 home runs, 19 runs batted in. And Joe, a man who will bunt for a base hit at any time, so the Mets shorten up against him. So we're underway in the last day of the year of 1986. In the regular season, 162nd game, the umpires are Charlie Williams, Harry Wendelstadt, Terry Tata, and Jerry Crawford. And the fastball by Darley Nicole strike.
When you think about it, this is the last game the Mets will play this year with 4 umpires.
They'll go to 6 very shortly.
Yeah.
And that pitch fouled off. Another fastball. That's 1-2.
That's what Major League players shoot for, to play before 6 umpires after the season's over.
Mets have set club records in runs scored, 774, hits 1,456. Another foul ball, the count 1-2. They have set a club record in 2 base hits with 261 and home runs with 145 and runs batted in with 721. Extra base hits 437, and they have struck out more than they've ever struck out. A drive into center field. It'll be a base hit for Orsulak. So a runner on with no one out, and the batter will be UL Washington. UL playing
number 28,
shortstop in today's ball game, hitting 198 for the year. He has no home runs, 10 runs batted in. He's been up 131 times with 26 base hits. Last year, the Pirates lost 104 games. This year, they have lost 97.
UL leads the league in 2 departments: toothpicks in the mouth while he's playing and chains around his neck. Going to the jewelry business. Check those chains.
And the fastball for a ball.
Look at that.
All that glitters is gold, huh?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a gold toothpick.
No, I doubt it.
1 ball, no strikes. A toss to first base. Orsulak with 24 stolen bases. The Pirates as a team with 150. And the old Willie Stargell warm-up right there. A sledgehammer.
There's only one difference. Willie Stargell's not in that lineup.
That's a big difference.
That's a big, big difference. Just say yesterday, what once was the lumber company became the slumber company almost overnight.
Or they did change that ball club. Of course, you're talking about Stargell and Parker. Parker now with Cincinnati having 2 outstanding years with the Cincinnati Reds. Fastball foul back. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Of course, the baseballs are more expensive with Cincinnati, right?
Absolutely.
Hard shot, the owner of the Cincinnati Reds.
She's making $17 a dozen.
She cut the price down from $50 a dozen for the autograph balls to $33 because the players found that the markup, she was making $17 a dozen on the players. Gosh, what a story.
How about that for an owner?
Sounds like Bill Webb was the owner of that ball club.
They used to give the balls to the ball players, a dozen each. Then she said, well, let's charge them $50 for them. And the pitch back a ball. It's 2 balls and 1 strike. Well, after all, Shotzi's got to eat.
That's right. It's true.
Shotzi, a St. Bernard dog that Hard Shot owns. Takes him to the ballpark, dresses him up in a uniform.
Full page in the press guide. All the great memories of the 1986 season.
And this ball fouled back into the stands, and the count remains at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jim Leland, the manager, who has had his contract renewed, so he's all set for next year. New contract for 1987.
Talking about memories of the season, it all started against this ball club when the Mets opened back in early April. Dwight Gooden won the first game 4-2. R.J. Reynolds hit the home run on the first pitch against Gooden.
There goes the runner, a strikeout at the plate. The throw down to second in time. A strikeout double play.
One of the glaring improvements of the Mets in the second half of the season has been Gary Carter's throwing. He has really been coming out of there. Can't help but think that Gary's knee and shoulder were bothering him earlier in the year. Very close play. But the Mets get the call. primarily because the ball beat the runner. He looked safe, but the Mets got the call.
And now the batter will be Barry Bonds, hitting at .223 with 16 home runs, 48 RBIs. Bonds with a count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Barry leads all the rookies in home runs with a 16, and he also leads all the rookie players in the National League with 48 runs batted in. He also leads the rookies in stolen bases with 35. Son of Bobby Bonds. And the count goes to 3 balls and a strike on Barry Bonds. Barry has yet to have a hit in this series. He's 0 for 8. And the 3-1 fastball just out of the strike zone, and Barry Bonds works out a walk. So a runner on with 2 men out, and the batter will be Sid Bream. Bream hitting .270 with 16 home runs, 77 runs batted in.
Bream.
Speaking of the Cincinnati Reds, another memory that comes to mind was that 14-inning game, the fight, Ray Knight, and the juggling by Davy Johnson of Jesse Orozco and Roger McDowell in right field.
He would go out of the lineup as a pitcher and take over in the outfield and then come back in and pitch.
Reason for that, obviously, was that Davy Johnson had run out of players.
Good move to first there.
I think that game, as you see Bonds doing a little house cleaning over there, but that game was kind of the July 4th and 5th game of 1986. Back in 1985, when the Mets played the 19-inning bizarre contest, scoring 5 in the top of the 19th. Rick Camp tying it up in the 13th.
With a home run of all things.
Or in the, I guess, the 17th.
17th, he tied it up. It was Terry Harper, was it, that hit the home run?
They hit the home run in the 13th off Tom Gorman.
And then the Mets winning it, and Darling making his only appearance as a relief pitcher in his career in that game.
Did not get a save. However, the game ended with Rick Camp striking out with the bases loaded, representing the tying run in the bottom of the 19th inning.
At 3:55 in the morning, and the meter was running on the cab that we had ordered in the 9th inning.
What a receipt for that cab.
And the fireworks after the game.
That, of course, was 1985, and this year, the 14-inning game in Cincinnati at Riverfront Stadium, the equivalent of that game. A lot of great memories this year.
One and two the count. And that'll do it. So Bream struck out on the changeup. In the inning, no runs, 1 hit, a double play, a walk, a man left, and the score at the end of 1/2 inning. The Pirates nothing, the Mets coming up. Now here's a word from Meineke Mufflers.
And batting second, first baseman Keith Hernandez hitting third. Gary Carter, the catcher, batting fourth, and Darryl Strawberry in right batting fifth. Howard Johnson, his first start in left field as a Met. Ray Knight batting seventh. Rafael Santana, the shortstop, hitting eighth, and Ron Darling batting ninth.
And it's Hipólito Peña on the mound for the Pirates, 0-2 this year with a 7.36 ERA. He's walked 3, struck out 5, given up 6 hits in 7 innings. This is his first major league start. He had been a relief pitcher and now made into a starter. And the defense behind Peña, Green at first base, Cahaffey at second base, Washington playing shortstop, Bonilla at third base, Orsulak in left field, Bonds in center field, DeStefano in right field, and Rodriguez the catcher. And for the Mets, Lenny Dykstra, the lead it off. Lenny hitting .297 for the year, 8 home runs, 45 runs batted in. And he had an idea about bunting, pulled the bat back when it was out of the strike zone for ball 1. Mets as a team leading the National League at hitting at .263. Peña's fastball a strike, and it's 1-1. Lenny Dykstra having an outstanding year for the Mets. Early in the year, he was hitting right at 335, and he's dropped down into the 290s, but still a good year. And his on-base average at 379. Good on-base average for a leadoff batter.
Speaking of good averages, we'll try to keep an eye on Don Mattingly and Wade Boggs today. Their battle for the American League batting title. Mattingly probably would have to go 8 for 5 to catch Boggs today.
Well, if Boggs doesn't play in the game, and they say he's not going to play because he has a hamstring pull, Mattingly would have to go 6 for 6 to win the batting title. I think if he went 4 for 4 and still had a chance at 2 more at-bats, you might see Boggs play. Reminds me of the time that Ted Williams was going for the 400 mark, another foul ball. Had a doubleheader the last day, and his manager, Joe Cronin, said, you can sit this one out. You don't have to play, nothing at stake, and you can have your 400 batting average. Williams said, no way, I play.
They were going to give it to him because it was 399.3 or 4, I believe, and they said they would go ahead and make it 400. He said, no way, pal.
Wow, that was close. So Dykstra takes a seat on a real close pitch to him.
Yeah, when you come to the ballpark and they tell you to take a seat, you hope it's not like this. It was close.
Anyway, Ted Williams in that doubleheader against the Philadelphia Athletics went 6 for 8. They end up hitting 406. Last man to hit 400 in the American League. And the last man to hit 400 in the National League, Bill Terry, who hit 401 in 1930. And there's a ground ball to the second baseman, Khalifa, and the out is made. That'll bring up Wally Backman. Backman hitting 322 for the year with 1 home run. It came on his birthday right here at Shea Stadium, and he also has driven in 27.
Williams hit 406 in 41, did not win the MVP. Triple Crown winner in 42, did not win the MVP. Triple Crown winner in 47, did not win the MVP. Won the MVP in 46 and 49.
Of course, in 1941, Joe DiMaggio hit in 56 consecutive games, the all-time record, and he was the MVP for the Yankees, who did win it that year.
Joe Gordon, the MVP in 1942, and I do not know what kind of year Joe Gordon had, but how could it have possibly been any better than a man who wins a Triple Crown?
That's amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
Wally Backman, the batter. The count 2 balls, no strikes. Wally hitting right-handed, hitting just 200. He's hitting 340 as a left-hand batter. Overall, his on-base average a fine 377. Foul ball on the fastball.
Compare that year 1942 with this year. If the same writers voted that voted 1942, they would probably be inclined to give Keith Hernandez the MVP. But because Mike Schmidt has had such an overwhelming year, then he becomes the odds-on favorite to win.
And the shortstop, UL Washington, throws it away. Routine play, and UL Washington throws it away.
Yep, this is just a big league error right here. Plenty of time. Ball tails into the runner. From his angle. Whoa! It's like a frisbee through. Boomerang.
So the error allows Backman to get to first base, and it brings up Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting 311, 13 home runs, 83 runs batted in. He's 4th in the National League in the batting race. The leader, Tim Raines, at 334, and then Steve Sachs at 332. So Sachs still a chance to win it. Sachs put together a 25-game hitting streak, the longest streak in the National League. To get right in that batting race. Also still a chance to win it is Tony Gwynn at 330. So only 4 points separating free batters in the National League on this last day of the season. 1 ball, 1 strike to Keith Hernandez. Keith is second in on-base percentage and a chance to win that title as he's 1 point behind Tim Raines. Raines at .413, Keith at .412. On-base percentage calculated with being hit by a pitch ball, also walks and base hits. And walks count as do being hit by a pitch ball as at-bats, times at bat. Gets hit right on the shoulder, I believe.
Oh, boy. Of all the things that you do not want, and we've said it in these last 2 games, no way Pena's trying to throw at him. The ball just got away from him, but fortunately, Keith did not get hit in it, and Davey's probably thinking the same thing, saying, oh, man, I start my regulars to try to give him a couple of bats. What's going on here? Probably he's looking at Jim Leland is who he's looking at. Jim's saying, what are you going to do? This could have been worse, obviously.
Well, after Dykstra just about got hit in the head, this is very close. Got him on the shoulder blade as Keith spins down and gets first base the hard way. But he's all right. So the wildness of Pena, a young pitcher, 22 years of age, and the Mets are taking a beating. Here is Gary Carter at the plate. Carter hitting .253 with 23 home runs, 102 RBIs. Became the first Met to have back-to-back 100 RBI years. And the Met record is 105 held by Rusty Staub, so that's within reach of Gary Carter.
Today's one of those days. Who was it? Grantland Rice? I guess his words come hauntingly back to the Mets. It's not whether you win or lose, but how you play the game.
Boy.
Who cares? They just want to
get out of here
without
alive.
an injury.
Yeah. So what do the Pirates do? They start a wild left-hander. First major league start. This ball hit deep to left field, way back. It's going. It is gone. Goodbye. And Carter has tied the Mets RBI record with his 105th run batted in.
His first name Hipolito. He pronounces it Hipolito. And that pitch to Gary Carter, I guess phonetically he could pronounce it he pulled it too. One is Spanish and the other is English. And Carter had some kind of English on that ball. Wow. He pulled it too. Gary Carter. Man.
So Jim Leland out to the mound to talk to his pitcher as the Mets take a 3-0 lead. Carter picking up his 24th his 24th home run and his 103rd, 4th, and 5th RBIs.
That might be the longest home run Carter has hit as a Met.
Boy, that ball was hit a long way over the back of the bleachers.
In a deep part of the field between the 396 and 410 sign. Gary's saying it was right there. Not for long, though.
It was put in orbit, wasn't it? And that brings up Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry hitting .258 with 26 home runs and 89 runs batted in. And the hard slider for a ball. Again, the slider, and the count 2 balls, no strikes. Darryl is tied for second in game-winning runs batted in with 15. He's tied now. He was tied with Gary Carter. Carter now has just taken a shot at being tied for the lead with Glenn Davis of Houston with 16 if this lead holds up. Last year it was Keith Hernandez with 24 gamers to set an all-time record. And that ball breaking in the strike zone, 2-2. Mike Bilecki in the bullpen for the Pirates. And swing and a miss. Rodriguez throws to first base to complete the strikeout. And Pena walking off the field. He thought that was the third out of the inning. He had to stop at the foul line and come back. Una, dos, tres. Leland looking on, observing that as Strawberry becomes the second out of the inning. That brings up Howard Johnson. Howard playing left field for the Mets today. Mookie was scratched because of a slight strain of a leg muscle. Johnson playing his second game ever in the outfield. He had played in the outfield against the Yankees for Detroit in one ball game, and there's ball one.
And we might add that Mookie is all right. He could have played today, but Davey wanted to give him an extra day rest so he can start at the Astrodome Wednesday night against Mike Scott.
This ball hit the deep center field. Bonds on his horse back to the warning track, and he makes the play. So Johnson flies out to deep center field for the final out of the inning. The Mets get 3 runs on 1 hit. And they leave none, so the score at the end of 1, the Mets 3 and the Pirates nothing. Now here's a word out.
After giving up that home run, there's Ron Schuler talking to him. He's talking about how high that ball was. And there's Junior Ortiz, his mentor, JJ.
Probably saying, well, you at least threw it 460, 70 feet.
Got to be strong to throw one that far.
Got to be very strong. It was hit a ton. Now we go to the top of the second. The Mets leading 3-0, and Bobby Bonilla to lead it off, hitting .238. Bonilla plays the outfield and the infield. He's had 1 home run, 17 runs batted in. Playing third base in today's game. And it's a little looper in the center field for a base hit. So Bonilla hits it on the end of the bat, picks up a single. And for the second inning in a row, Pirates have their leadoff batter on. Starling came into this game with a record of 14-6. Last year he was 16-6. And this next batter, Brooklyn-born Benny DeStefano. Benny hitting .167, 1 home run, 5 runs batted in. And that's ball 1. Mets leading 3-0 on Carter's 3-run home run. Good fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike. Darling with 4 complete games this year. That ties his season's high. He's had 2 shutouts. That also ties his season's high. And he is 5th in the National League in earned run average at 2.87. The leader is Mike Scott at 2.22, and then Bob Ojeda at 2.57. Roden third at 2.84. And it's a changeup in the count 1-2. Benny DeStefano, the batter. Bobby Bonilla, the runner at first base, has good speed. Very good speed for a big man, and the pitch back a fastball. 2-2. On deck batter, Sam Khalifa. Popped up. Second baseman Wally Backman will try it. And he makes the play. Bonilla staying at first base, and the batter will be Sam Khalifa. Khalifa hitting .189. No home runs, 4 runs batted in. Pirates as a team hitting .251 with 111 runs make that home runs, 111 home runs.
last day of the season can be very depressing from an individual player's standpoint. Especially if you've had a bad year. You don't know whether you're returning to that ball club, whether they're going to give you another shot the next year in spring training. On the other hand, it can be a very contented day for guys who have had good years and reflecting on the years that they have had. A guy like Jim Morrison, Johnny Ray. Jim, his best year in the big leagues. Johnny Ray hitting 300 again.
Here's a double play ball, and the Mets turn it easily. So the second double play, the first a strikeout double play, and in the inning, no runs, 1 hit, no one left on base. The score at the end of 1.5 innings, the Mets 3 and the Pirates. New pitcher for the Pirates.
There are the numbers on Mike. Disappointing year. Mike from Baltimore, Maryland, 26 years old. Won his first major league start against the Mets back on April 15th, 1985. Split finger fastball. A lot of other folks are too. A glorious day here at Shea. Symbolic of the glorious season the Mets have had. It's 3-0 New York. Hipólito Peña giving up the 3-run homer to Gary Carter. An early exit for Peña as Bielecki's in there.
Mets need 21,191 in paid attendance to go over their record, their all-time city record.
Cake. They got it.
They got it.
Ray Knight, the batter. Ray batting .297, and if he goes 3 for 3, maybe even 3 for 4, he could reach the 300 level. As you see the crowd in the stands, about, I'd say, 35,000 on hand this afternoon. Mets have averaged 36,895 for the year. Pop fly out of play. So it's 2-1 to Ray Knight.
Mets had 5 games rained out here at Shea Stadium. Of course, that really does cut down on total attendance. They had 1 scheduled doubleheader. They will have 75 home dates.
High chopper. Bielecki will go to first and make the play. You saw Bielecki slip a little bit when he made that throw. And I guess one of the most valuable Mets this season, Pete Flynn, head of the ground crew.
All right, here, Bielecki comes up in this ball. It looks like there's something wrong with him. Well, he stops and makes the throw to first base.
It is amazing that nobody has gotten hurt since the clincher 2.5 weeks ago against the Cubs. Pete Flynn and his crew put the field back together, worked all night in doing so. After that night game, the Mets had to play the Cubs the next afternoon. What a remarkable job that ground crew did in patching this field back together. You could barely tell that it's been, uprooted like it was. 1-1 to Santana.
And when we first played after they tore it up, it was patchwork all over the place. It looked like the Astrodome. Their AstroTurf there, patches all over it.
Two and 1 to Santana, batting .219, and he fouls it back 2-2. Fastball in tight, 3-2 to Santana.
Here's a replay of the last pitch by Bielecki, and another ball in tight. And Bielecki with a very peculiar follow-through. He really has a strange follow-through, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. First walk given up by Bielecki. So Santana at first. 1 out. John Smiley warming up.
Number 12. Pitcher.
Looks like Jim Leland trying to use his whole staff today, or on the road to. Ron Darling has 2 doubles out of his 8 hits. Not as good a hitting year for Met pitchers as last year. attempt. Bream will go to second baseman Khalifa covering. So the sacrifice successful. There are now 2 outs, and Lynn Dykstra the batter.
You know, Jim, you're talking about the end of the season, the last game of the season for a last-place ball club that has lost 200 games in their last 2 years. It's almost a blessing in disguise to get the season over with.
You know, and here 2 years ago, the Pirates became the first team ever in the history of Major League Baseball to lead the league in ERA and yet finish last. Swing and a miss to Dykstra. He grounded to second his first time up. There's Lynn Dykstra's average against the Houston Astros this year. That 1 home run came off Mike Scott. That's who he'll be facing Wednesday night, about 8:07 or so. 1-1 to Dykstra. Lynn looks a little more closed than he was earlier in the season, Ralph.
He's moved off the plate a little bit. You know, when you hit that close to the plate from a closed stance, it is hard to get cleared.
Get those hips open, which is so necessary. 3-1 to Dykstra.
I found that when I hit right on top of the plate, which I did, unless the pitcher was extremely fast, I had to open up a little bit, just slightly, so I could clear my hip out of the way to get my hands through.
Grounded foul, and the ball just caroms like a rock over water. Ping, 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 ping. Just kept going right up the stands. Yeah. 3-2 to Dykstra.
That's how Candy Cummings invented the curveball, by skipping shells over water. He said, if you can make them curve, why can't a ball be curved?
Fly ball to left field. Orsulak had moved back. Now he moves in. Tough sun today. Dykstra is out, and so are the Mets. No runs, no hits, no errors, and what's the batter? This is his first major league at bat, even though he has played in 1 game prior to today's action. Ruben Rodriguez, the starting catcher, takes a split finger fastball for a strike. Bill Almond, the on-deck batter, he'll pinch hit for Mike Bilecki. Split finger is outside. Ruben from Carrera in the Dominican Republic. 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, signed as a non-drafted free agent back in 1981. Ruben Dario Rodriguez. Fastball is low, 3-1 to Rodriguez. 55 players now, with Bell homering off Blyleven last week, have hit home runs in their first major league at bat, but not Rodriguez. Grounded to third, and Knight throws him out. 1 out.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and WOR-TV, and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and WOR-TV is prohibited.
Bill Almond, the batter. Bill signed as a free agent with the Pirates a couple of years ago, not having nearly as good a year as he had last year. Last year he batted .270 with 6 home runs, 29 RBIs, plays a lot of positions.
And played for the Mets very briefly.
Bill out of Brown University.
First round draft choice of the San Diego Padres.
Finger fastball is lifted to left. Howard Johnson, his first chance as a left fielder, he makes the catch. Transition from the infield to the outfield, not nearly as difficult as the other way around.
Or that can be said.
Go from the outfield to the infield, that ball's on top of you in a hurry. Can't wind up when you throw. Take those extra steps to get a little more on it. Joe Orsulak, the batter, he singled his first time up. Curveball. Lollipop curve, 0-1.
53rd double. 2 for 3. That 53rd double broke Lou Gehrig's club record. Mattingly would have had to go 6 for 6 to win the batting title. So that one at bat when he did not get a base hit will cost him.
Grounded foul. Mattingly voted by his players in a New York Times poll earlier in the year as the best player in the game, and I don't think that's arguable anymore. 1-2 to Joe Orsulak.
Not only has he broken Lou Gehrig's 2 base hit record, he's broken the base hit record for the Yankees.
Good play by Carter to come up with that ball. And Darling records his 3rd strikeout. Bucks go in order. It's 3-0 Mets after 3.5 and 2.5. And we'll be back after this word from Lincoln Mercury.
He's worked in 11 games. Earned run average at 2.79. 7 strikeouts, 3 walks, 3 hits, and 9 2/3 innings.
Fastball is low to Wally Backman. He struck out. I beg your pardon. He was on an error his first time up. Fastball low. Nothing New York, bottom of the 3rd inning. 2-1. Smiley almost made Backman do anything but that. 3-1. Giants. Pitch is fouled off. 3-2 to Backman.
I'd like to wish a happy birthday, Tim, to Mrs. McCuff of Ashland, Pennsylvania.
All right. No first name, or I guess it's Miss, right?
Yeah, right.
Against those Astros, Wally, obviously primarily from the left side. He will be in the 2 slot Wednesday night. Ground ball is short. Washington will try it again. And he throws out Backman this time. You remember that error led to the Backman getting on. Hernandez was hit by a pitch, and then Gary Carter pulled his 24th homer of the year.
So 2 of those 3 runs in the first inning were earned, 1 unearned run. Nissan proves basic transportation doesn't have to be boring with the 1987 Sentra. You'll say, bye-bye basics, hello Sentra.
Fastball is low.
Keith is adding on to his on-base percentage. That's his average against the Astros, 308 with 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. Got hit by a pitch ball his first time up. He can lead the league in on-base average if he can get on base a couple of more times.
Montreal has Tim Raines as a left fielder. There's no score in that game against Philadelphia, so Montreal not scoring any runs so far. Might be an indication that Raines hasn't gotten on base. 2-1 to Hernandez.
Keith 1 point behind Raines.
Ground ball knocked down by Smiley. And he throws Hernandez out. He guns him out, as a matter of fact.
I think he stopped that ball with his bare hand.
Catcher.
Let's look at it again. Now he got his glove on it. Boy, does he fire this thing to first. Low fastball.
Gary Carter, his 24th home run, RBIs number 103, 4, and 5 to tie Rusty Staub's 105 RBIs back in 1975 as the Met who has driven in the most. There they are.
Only 2 Mets have ever had 100 RBIs or more.
Carter's done it twice. He did it last year and this year. Strike one to Gary, 0-1.
190 against the Astros, but he does have 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. The 12 games between the two clubs.
Ground ball left side. Tough hop that Washington plays, and he throws out Gary Carter. The Mets go in order in the third, and after 3, it's 3-0. Steve joins Ralph after.
On Gary Carter's 3-run home run in the first. And coming in now for the play-by-play on a beautiful day for baseball, the last day of the season, Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks a lot, Ralph, and hi, everybody. It's a beautiful day for whatever you'd like to do. And a lot of folks are enjoying it at the park today as they feel that the best is yet to come in spite of the success of '69 and the hoped for World's Championship here in 1986. 3-0 New York leading, and as we go to the fourth, UL Washington will lead it off against Ron Darling. Barry Bonds and Sid Bream to follow. Washington struck out in a double play when Carter threw out Joe Orsulak at second in the first inning. He takes the ball. Ball 2. One thing about Darling this year that has been a tremendous improvement, even though his record is about the same as last year, is the number of walks he has allowed this season as opposed to last. There's strike one, 2-1. He has walked 1 in this game to give him a total of 80 on the year. Last year he led the league in walks. That's out of play. The count 2-2. And 80 walks in 235 innings is not that bad.
His walk to strikeout ratio very good this year, the 80 walks, and he has 182 strikeouts.
Pounded right off the plate back to Darling, and an easy play for Ronnie. 1 away here in the fourth.
And checking out the Nissan scoreboard in the National League, Cubs 3, Cardinals nothing, top of the 5th. The Expos 1, the Phillies nothing, top of the 4th. Padres 2, the Reds nothing, bottom half of the 1st. No score of the Braves and Astros as they get underway, and the Giants and Dodgers later on.
All the grand finales today to the regular season. Barry Bonds walked his first time up, and he looks at ball 1 from Darling. Popped up behind first. Backman back there battling the sun, and he drops it. While he was fighting it all the way, there is a breeze blowing here at Shea that pushed that ball farther and farther toward the right field line.
Well, Wally had some trouble on an earlier pop-up. That sun is really tough. It looks like he's really trying to find the ball out of that sun. Never did get it in the pocket of the glove, and it pops out.
It right on the heel. So it'll go for an error. Bonds at first with 1 away. And here's Sid Bream, who struck out to end the first. Ball 1. Bream is 3rd in the National League in doubles. He has 37 this year, and Vaughn Hayes leads with 46. The Pirates, in fact, number 1 in the league as a team, with 273 doubles on the year. Bonds is going, and the throw is high and wide from Carter. Bonds got a real good jump, and he steals his 36th base of the year. He leads all National League rookies in that category.
Bonds chip off the old block. His dad, Bobby Bonds, an outstanding base runner, and he picks up the 36th stolen base of his major league career, and he leads all rookies in stolen bases, home runs, and runs batted in.
He's had a good year. The only real downside to his rookie season is his .223 batting average. 1 ball, 1 strike to Sid Bream. And a strike at the knees. Bream disagrees, and it's 1-2.
All he has to do is call up his dad. His dad's a hitting instructor of the Cleveland Indians. Well, a lot of movement on that ball as count 1-2 on Bream.
One out with Bonds at second. And the fastball right in there. See you later. Sid Bream struck out for the second time in the game. Darling has struck out 4 now.
Good pitch right there. Fastball for the strikeout. Darling working on a 2-hit shutout at this point.
So 2 out in the inning, and Bobby Bonilla will be the batter. Bonilla single to center, leading off the second. And a strike called. Bonilla turns around and looks at Charlie Williams. But it's 0-1. Strike 2. Bonilla, with his hand to his hip, says, "What's going on here?"
He doesn't help his cause any by walking out of that batter's box either. Charlie Williams, a home plate umpire. That might have been low, but this time of year, you don't get any favors from anybody. It's the last day of the season. Umpires want to go home, too.
Move this game along, they're saying. Down low, 1-2.
Of course, I think it was 1920 that the Pirates had a triple header on the last day of the season with the Cincinnati Reds. The only time a triple header's ever been played.
Did they play all 3 games?
All 3 games were played. The third game was called because of darkness, but it was an official game. They got 5 innings in. Cincinnati won the first 2, and the Pirates won the third.
Man.
Of course, they played 3 games in about as much time as they play 1 now.
Very close. Bonilla held up. So the count 2-2. 2 out. Barry Bonds, who reached on an error at second base. And a full count now.
In 1902, Pittsburgh Pirates won the championship by the biggest margin ever, 27.5 games.
Ball 4. Carter and Darling thought they had strike 3. So nobody was happy in that at bat. But Bonilla works out a walk. Second one issued by Darling. Runners at first and second with 2 out for Benny DiStefano. DiStefano popped out to Wally Backman in the second inning on a play very similar to the one that Backman dropped in this inning off the bat of Barry Bonds. Ball 1. You and Tim were talking earlier, Ralph, about how this can be somewhat of a downer for a lot of the players, and certainly the attitudes of each dugout vastly different on a day like today, with the Mets continuing on to the LCS and the Pirates going into this game in dead last, 43 games behind New York.
That's no fun when you're hitting 189 and the season ends. You got to worry about going to spring training with the team the next year. DiStefano hitting 167, but he's been up only 37 times.
With the count 2-0 to DiStefano, and Ray Krosick in the bullpen for the Pirates. Carter out to talk to Darling for a moment.
Of course, the Pirates have had Hawaii as their #1 farm club. That's not too bad to look forward to playing in Hawaii.
But that's over after
They
this
changed.
year.
That's right. Now they got nothing to sell the guys on.
Swing and a miss. 2-1. The Pirates just made a deal with Vancouver, British Columbia.
A little different from Hawaii.
Nice city, though, but the weather is slightly different, especially early and late in the year. Strike two, 2-2.
One time the California Angels had it beat. The players did. They trained in Palm Springs, California, played in Anaheim, California, and their #1 farm club was in Hawaii.
Hard to go wrong. Didn't mind being sent down as much. And DiStefano goes after one in the dirt, strikes out, and the inning is over. 1 error, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts for Darling, and 2 left aboard here in the 4th for Pittsburgh. After 3.5, still 3-0 Mets. And we're back after this for Michelob Light. 4th inning for the Mets. Strawberry struck out his first time up. And that was against Hipólito Peña, the starter. Now facing John Smiley, working his 2nd inning. 2-0. And Darrell fouls it back. 2 balls, 1 strike. Here's what Darrell did against Houston this season. Just a .208 average, but look at the power numbers. 4 homers and 13 RBIs in just 12 games between the two teams. And Darrell has been swinging the bat very well lately with 5 homers and 11 RBIs in his last 10 games. Fastball outside, 3-1.
Darrell 3rd in the National League in slugging percentage at .501.
Sid Fernandez getting some work in the New York bullpen. Ball 4 to Strawberry. First walk issued by Smiley. Strawberry aboard with nobody out here in the 4th. And here's Howard Johnson, who hit one about 400 feet to straightaway center his first time up, but it's 410 to the fence, so Barry Bonds caught it.
The deepest center field in Major League Baseball history was the Polo Grounds, 483 feet.
Which is like, it might as well be 1.2 miles. Although the ball that Carter hit for a home run in this ball game might have gone out. Gary hit that ball between the 396 and 410 signs and over the bleachers on the fly.
If you remember the Polo Grounds, they had a well in straightaway center field that went that deep. On either side, the bleachers in left center and right center were 445 feet away, and only 3 home runs were hit in there. The first by Joe Adcock, the second was by Lou Brock, and the third by Hank Aaron.
When I was in Little League, I was a big Joe Adcock fan.
He had a lot of power.
He could really hit the ball. And I went out and bought a Joe Adcock first baseman's glove, which was kind of silly because I played in the outfield most of the time. But I just wanted to have it. His name on it.
He's the only man in baseball history, I should say Major League Baseball history, that ever had 18 total bases in one ball game. He hit 4 home runs in one ball game, and his 5th time up, he just missed a home run, had a double.
Strawberry running the pitch high and away, and Rodriguez had a very difficult time getting it out of his glove. Darrell in well ahead of the throw with stolen base number 28 on the year.
Darrell gets a big jump. He had second base stolen, but Rodriguez still couldn't get it out of the glove, and then he makes a low throw. So the Mets get their 118th stolen base, and they have a runner at second base with no one out.
And the count 1-1 to Howard Johnson. Check swing foul makes it 1-2.
Of course, Adcock will be remembered for one of the longest singles ever hit in the history of baseball. It went out of the ballpark. And you say, how do you hit a ball out of the ballpark and only get a single? Well, it was the first hit given up by Harvey Haddix. In the 13th inning, he had pitched a perfect game. And Hank Aaron was on base ahead of him and went to second and cut it right back into the dugout. So Adcock lost a home run, got a single, but he did win the ball game, getting the only hit in that great game pitched by Harvey Haddix. of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
2-2. And the Kitten, as Harvey Haddix was known, was the Pirates pitching coach up until this year. He had them leading the league in ERA, even though they were last in the standings.
So he got fired.
Strike 3. John Smiley with a good fastball to pick up his first K.
Now this ball right at the letters. And a swinging strike. Smiley looks good. Good young ball player.
Now here's Ray Knight, who tapped back to the pitcher at the time, Mike Bilecki, to open the second inning. Ball 1. And there's Ray's numbers against his former team. 188 is all. The Houston pitching staff, pretty tough. Well hit, deep to left. Diaz looks up, and it is out of here. Ray Knight with a 2-run home run, and the Mets on 2 long drives now lead 5-0.
For Ray Knight, his 11th home run of the year, his 75th and 76th runs batted in. And it's the Mets' 146th home run of the year, make it 47th home run of the year, club record. So Ray Knight getting an ovation here at Shea Stadium in the final game. He has had some great year for the Mets.
And as he came around to score, as Santana stands in and grounds to third, Bonilla throws him out just barely for the second out of the inning. As Knight came around, he blew a kiss to wife Nancy Lopez in the stands. Nice touch. Nancy and Ray still own a home in Houston.
He has some ambivalent feelings, I guess, about the current coming series. Played for the Houston Astros and now with the New York Mets.
Ron Darling looks at strike 1. One and one. Darling sacrificed back in the second. 2 balls, 1 strike. Another facet of Knight's situation is that his contract with New York is up this year, and even though he's had a great year, it's unclear as to whether or not he'll be back with New York, although he has said he would like to be. That's out of play. And the count now 2-2. Darling, trying to pick up his 15th win of the year, has been staked to a 5-0 lead. And we're only in the bottom of the 4th inning. Ronnie be happy just not to get a no decision. He's had 10 no decisions in his last 22 starts. Strike 3. So Smiley strikes out 2, but he walks 1 and gives up a 2-run home run to Ray Knight. And Oh My Darling has a 5-run lead as we go to the 5th inning after this for Burger King. Dave Magadan replaces Keith Hernandez at first base, and Tim Tuffle replaces Wally Backman at second base. And look at that Bill Webb sign, boy. Most valuable producer. And of course, Ralph, Steve, Tim, and Rusty get something less than even second billing on that baby. Bill Webb, a legend in his own mind. Sammy Khalifa leads off the 5th for Pittsburgh, and skies 1 to Strawberry and right, 1 away. I'll tell you what, though, we kid Spider a lot. But Bill Webb and this crew, and I don't want this to sound self-serving or anything, but on the last telecast of the year, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't say thanks, because They do all the work, and boy, do they do it well. From Rick Miner to Bill Webb, right on down. Just the best group of people you could hope for. Ruben Rodriguez grounded to third his first time up. And he swings and misses for strike 2.
Well, it has been an outstanding year. There's no doubt about that. The coverage by our camera crews and our production people added to our joy of broadcasting the ball game, certainly making the job that much easier to do.
Santana with an easy play to Magadan, 2 away. Of course, Webb would rather have the cash than the compliments.
In lieu of money, we will compliment. If you're listening to this game as you work around the yard, and I imagine there are a lot of you doing that, breaking up the leaves, take a bud break. Pour yourself that clean, crisp taste that only comes from the king of beers. Hey, this bud's for you.
Rich Renteria pinch hitting for Smiley. Skies one to center field, and a very quick and easy inning for Ron Darling as Renteria flies to center to end it. And the Pirates go in order here in the 5th. Darling with a 5-0 lead, even though the Mets have only 2 hits. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th after this for Budweiser. They're all pinned in for the moment, and they're going to take off if the wind is blowing like it is now. Ray Krozik, another Pittsburgh pitcher, the 4th of the afternoon, his 12th appearance, 0-1 and a 4.76 ERA. He's only worked 11 1/3, as you see. And as we go to the bottom of the 5th, and Len Dykstra stands in against him once again, here's Ralph.
Okay, Steve, and the first pitch of fastball, ball 1. Dykstra has no hits and 2 at-bats, has grounded out and flied out. Fastball hit on the ground and cut off by Bream. A good play there and a good throw. So Dykstra robbed of a base hit by Sid Bream. Len came into the game hitting .297 for the year. That'll bring up well, they have Magadan in the on-deck circle, but it should be Tim Tuffle.
Well, Tuffle's tying his shoe down by the dugout. There he is. So I think it is Tuffle's going to hit, but he's not quite ready.
He had to get his hitting shoes on.
Doesn't hurt.
Tuffle hitting .249 for the year, 4 home runs, 31 RBIs, and hitting very well in the second half of the season.
Well, there are a couple reasons for that. Tim made some adjustments in his batting style and stance with the help of Bill Robinson, the Mets hitting instructor. And I think, too, Ralph, that being around the league for a few months and seeing the pitchers obviously had to help him the second half. Because it's tough to make that transition from one league to another.
He's a strong hitter. He hits the ball with good authority, and he's been hitting the ball very hard lately. He gets a curveball on the first pitch for ball 1. Mets leading 5-0 on 2 hits, both hits home runs. 3-run home run by Gary Carter and a 2-run home run by Ray Knight. And the fastball in the count, 2 balls, 1 strike.
This has got to be a little bit tough on the Mets hitters, too. Tuffle, of course, is hitting for the first time, but the guys who have been in the lineup since the start of the game, like Dykstra, facing a different pitcher every time you come up there.
4th pitcher used by Jim Leyland, the manager of the Pirates, who has been rehired for next year. Always a very important thing when you finish in last place, that you get your contract for the next year before the season ends. Little things you look for.
Often a rare thing, too.
Very unusual.
As well as important.
Especially, he got it just before they came in here to play the Mets, and of course they have lost 2 games to the Mets, and they have a record against the Mets this year of 16 losses and 1 victory. So Tuffle works out a walk, and Dave Magadan will be the batter for the Mets, hitting .438, no home runs, 3 runs batted in. Magadan with 16 at-bats, and he had the game-winning RBI in his first 2 games as a starting player in the National League. What a way to start a season. Swings at the first pitch, hits a fly ball to left field. Here comes Diaz. He loses it in the sun, and the ball drops. Well, Mike Diaz had his reputation precede him. He had been known as not a good outfielder, and here he has trouble again.
I'm not too sure, though, that a good outfielder would not have had trouble with the sun here. As you can tell from Diaz's shadow, he is running right directly into the sun as he tries to go for this ball. And he just lost it in the last, 10 or 15 feet. Never saw it come down.
So Madigan with a base hit, runners now at first and second. And the batter is Gary Carter. Carter has tied the Mets record for RBIs in the year. He has 105, tying Rusty Staub for the most runs batted in a single season as a Met player.
Carter, with that home run, will finish the season with a 13-game hitting streak, and that's the longest by a Met this year.
That ties his all-time high for hitting in consecutive games, 13 with Montreal. And he chops it up the middle. Tough play for the second baseman, Khalifa, and he can't handle it. And everybody's safe, and I believe that'll go as an infield hit.
I think it certainly should go as an infield hit, because even though Carter is not blessed with great speed, if Khalifa comes up with this ball cleanly, he still has a very difficult play to make. See how he's running toward third? He's trying to get his body by circling the ball in a position to make it. Let's watch Carter go down the line. Boy, I'll tell you, talk about busting it. Even though he doesn't have great speed, he runs to first like that every single time. And now the bases are loaded.
And the batter will be Darryl Strawberry. Darryl has struck out and walked.
Pardon me, Ralph. It is a hit for Carter.
Darryl came into this game with 89 runs batted in. Chance here for 4 more. And he leads the club in home runs with 26. And this ball hit the deep right field. It is gone. Goodbye. Grand slam home run for Darryl Strawberry.
And welcome to Home Run Derby. Darryl Strawberry's third career Grand Slam home run, and there was no doubt about it, all the way to the base of the scoreboard and a mile high on top of that. Watch this swing. Boom. Darryl knew it. Everybody here knew it. And the Mets, not counting the fly ball lost in the sun to left field by Magadan, and the infield hit by Carter, have had 3 hits account for all 9 runs.
And now the batter is Howard Johnson, and what can he do for an encore? Johnson flied out to deep center in the first inning, struck out in the 4th. And there's ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes.
Pena gave up a home run to Carter, a 3-run blast. Smiley, a 2-run home run to Ray Knight, and now Krosick, a grand slammer to Strawberry.
And there is ball 3, so the count at 3-0 as Pirates are really being shocked here today. That's on their way to winning 17 of the 18 games with the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. On their way to their 108th victory of the season tying the National League record for divisional play, tying the 1975 Cincinnati Reds. And that's ball 4. And it will bring up Ray Knight, who had a 2-run home run in the 4th inning. Ray's 11th home run of the season. And Ray Knight with 76 runs batted in. And the first pitch. Ray Knight popped up into the left. That sun is a problem, and Diaz manages to find that one. And he makes the catch. Johnson back to first base. And 2 men away.
Shortstop, Rafael Santana.
Right here, the glass is down as Mike Diaz fights that sun and puts it in the pocket for the out.
Well, Tim McCarver, who keeps a home run record on the Mets, points out that's the 4th grand slam that the Mets have hit this year.
And it's Rafael Santana at the plate. He's strike 1.
George Foster had one back on May 27th against Tom Niedenfuhr of Los Angeles. Tim Teufel, of course, had the extra inning grand slam home run on June 10th. Gary Carter hit one off David Palmer of Atlanta on July the 11th. So since July 11th, been a grand slam drought around here.
And Barry Jones in the bullpen for the Pirates as Santana fouls off the fastball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Mets have 9 runs on a total of 5 hits, but 3 of the 5 hits home runs. A 3-run home run by Carter, his 24th. A 2-run home run by Knight, his 11th. And a grand slam home run by Darryl Strawberry, his 27th home run of the year. Another pitch very, very close to Santana. The Mets have been hit 3 times in this 3-game series, and they've had some close ones.
Well, Krozik's been hit pretty hard in this inning, and he just breezes Santana one time here.
And a check swing. Ball fouled off over to the dugout side as Junior Ortiz makes the bare hand catch.
Nice little backhand play there, Junior. Didn't even spill a sunflower seed in the process. That's pretty good.
He always had a good pair of hands. And another one for a ball, and the count goes to 3-2. Johnson, the runner at first base, will be running with a pitch, a 3-2 pitch, ball 4, and another man on. That'll bring up Ron Darling, the 9th man to bat in this inning, and Ron is being called back, and it's going to be Stan Jefferson as a pinch hitter for Darling. So Darling will leave the ball game relatively assured of winning his 15th game of the year as he leads with a 9-0 lead.
I'll bet you there's some lines in the dugout right now about no decisions, even though the Mets are up by 9.
So Jefferson to bat for Darling. Jefferson hitting .227, 1 home run, 3 runs batted in. Darling pitching 5 shutout innings, and it looks like Sid Fernandez will be the pitcher to follow Darling to the mound as Davey Johnson tries to get his starters some work, no matter whether it's as a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher.
Stan Jefferson has been up 4 times as a pinch hitter without a base hit.
And the fastball, ball 1.
And we want to remind you that the Mets special, Bring It Home Mets, is going to be seen tomorrow night at 9, Monday night, 9 p.m., right here on Channel 9. A little end-of-the-year special for you to get ready for the playoffs.
2 balls, 1 strike. Hit into shallow center field. Barry Bonds moving up under it. And that is not Barry Bonds. That is Joe Orslak, and he makes the catch, and That retires the side, but the Mets get 4 runs on 3 hits. There were 2 walks, 2 men left on base, and the score at the end of 5. The Mets 9 and the Pittsburgh Pirates nothing. Now here's a word from Manufacturers Hanover. Over in center field. Have a new shortstop, Kevin Elster at shortstop, and a new catcher. It's Ed Hearn behind the plate. On the mound, Sid Fernandez.
And Sid with a record of 16-6, 3.59 ERA. He has, of course, no saves. And this is, in fact, his first relief appearance of the year. But Davey Johnson had said prior to the game that he wanted to split it today between Darling and Fernandez, as they both need to be ready for the playoffs. So Darling gets his 5 innings in, leaves with a 9-0 lead. Ronnie only gave up 2 hits. He struck out 5 and walked 2.
And Sid Fernandez did appear in relief 1 time this year, and it was in the All-Star game. Pitched 1 inning, walked his first 2 batters, and then struck out the side. And that was in Houston.
Number 2, Kevin Elster. And now playing center field.
So Sid takes over, and he'll be working to Joe Orsulak. Joe 1 for 2 in the game, getting that base hit to center field in the first inning off Ron Darling. And Fernandez with a fastball, a strike. Orsulak hitting .249 for the year, and the fastball is missed at strike 2. Goes to the curve, and it's 1-2-3. A little tough on left-hand batters when you bring a fellow like Sid Fernandez in the ball game with the shadows extending out there in front of home plate.
And you could tell.
Thrown out of that sunlight.
That's right. You could tell by the swing Orsulak had. He wasn't sure where that ball was. That's tough duty.
So Sid strikes out his first batter. And he now works to UL Washington as Orsulak explains it back in the bench. UL 0 for 2, struck out into a double play in the first inning and was thrown out by the pitcher his next time up. And that's how tough it is right now when that ball comes out of that sunlight into that shadow. This time of year with the sun low on the horizon, you get a lot of that. Of course, that won't be a problem in the Astrodome as it's a covered stadium. Plus, the problem will be you can't see the ball because it's dark in there.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sid Fernandez is tough enough to pick up under ideal circumstances, and now it's got to be brutal.
And he picks up his second strikeout. That time he gets the batter with a fastball.
Sid needs 6 of those S's up there to get 200 strikeouts on the year. He entered the game with 194. He now has 196.
And his next batter will be Mike Diaz. Sid making his second major league appearance as a relief pitcher. His first was in his major league debut for the Mets we're talking about. Sid making his major league debut back on September 20th, 1983 when he pitched against the Astros for the Dodgers. He went 3 innings. Sid lost 1 game for the Dodgers before he was traded to the New York Mets. And the curveball slips out of his hand. 1 ball, 1 strike.
In that previous relief appearance back on September 20th, 83 for Los Angeles, in those 3 innings, Sid struck out 5. Gave up a run, 2 hits, and a walk.
There's something you don't see him throw very often, a change of pace. When it's tough to see at the plate, that change of pace is really a tough pitch to pick up.
Got to get yourself geared for the fastball against Fernandez, and you could tell that Mike Diaz was way out in front. And if he can master that, he'll be unbelievable. He's matured so much this year as a pitcher and as a person in that regard. And one of the reasons that the Dodgers really gave up on Sid was because of his youth his immaturity.
Goes back to the fastball and just does miss. 2-2. Popped up into shallow right. Strawberry is there. And Darrell makes the play. So Fernandez works a perfect inning, striking out 2, and the score at the end of 5.5 innings, it's the Mets 9 and the Pirates nothing. Now here's a word from Nissan. And we have a new pitcher in the ball game for the Pirates. It's Barry Jones, and the first pitch to Kevin Elster is fouled off at strike 1. Jones with a record of 3-4. And he is the 5th pitcher to be used by Jim Leyland as the Mets lead it by a score of 9-0. Elster batting for the first time. Hitting 179 since coming up from the minor leagues. 5 hits and 28 at-bats. And the sinking fastball. Breaking ball missed, and the count 1-2. Pena started the ball game, relieved by Bilecki, relieved by Smiley, relieved by Krasick, and now Barry Jones in the game. And speaking of Jones, I want to say hello to Wild Bill Jones, who used to pitch batting practice for the St. Louis Browns and the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wild Bill Jones.
I've never heard of a batting practice pitcher by the name of Wild Bill. I mean, you don't want wild pitchers pitching batting practice. High pop-up. Mike Diaz puts it away, and 1 away.
Maybe it was given to him facetiously. I mean, let's hope anyway.
No, he can back it up. He went to Muskogee, Oklahoma, walked 14 men, struck out 12, and gave up 10 hits and lost 10-8. So he was really wild.
Well, that's probably how he became a batting practice pitcher, right?
Second baseman.
Too wild to make it in the big leagues.
That's some interesting insight on some of the old-time players. A gas house gang, for one group anyway. He said they were known as wild people. He said they liked to fight. They couldn't fight the opposition. They fought themselves. And that is true.
Yes, I've heard stories.
1 ball, no strikes. That's the old St. Louis Cardinals of the early 30s that won the championship in 1934 with people like Ducky Medwick, Pepper Martin, Frankie Frisch, Jimmy Collins,
Dizzy Dean.
There's a pitch in for a called strike. Tuffle, the batter. Tim in this game has been up once and has walked. Two pitch pulled foul, and the count will stay at 1 ball and 2 strikes. The scorecard looks like it would look in spring training.
Yeah, if they bring in any more pitchers, I'm running out of room here.
1-2, and Davy Johnson treating this ball game as though it were a spring training game, and it is practically that. Here's a strikeout on Tuffle, 2 men away.
Here's the Nissan American League scoreboard for you. In the 8th inning, Milwaukee and Toronto are tied at 1. In the 4th inning, Detroit leads Baltimore 2-0. Top of the 8th, Yankees shutting out Boston 6-0. Bottom of the 6th, Seattle over Cleveland 2-0. In the 1st inning, no score, California at Texas. Bottom of the 4th, Minnesota 1-0 over Chicago, and Kansas City will be at Oakland later.
And Dave Magadan, the batter, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Dave has batted once, came up with a blue base hit into left field. Mets leading 9-0 on only 5 hits, but 3 of the 5 hits home runs. First by Gary Carter, his 24th, and he picked up his 105th run batted in to tie a club record held by Rusty Staub. The second home run by Ray Knight, his 11th of the year. That was a 2-run home run and a grand slammer by Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry's home run his 27th of the year, and he now has 93 RBIs. And that pitch bouncing in the dirt. 2 balls, 1 strike. There you see Darryl, who's finished this season very strongly. Two balls, 1 strike to Magadan, and a ground ball hit off the hands to the shortstop, UL Washington. The throw to first base retires the side. So a 1-2-3 inning for Jones, and the score at the end of 6 as Tim McCarver comes back in with Steve Zabriskie. The New York Mets.
Sun-splashed Shea Stadium going to the 7th inning, and the incredibly stupid stat of the season is that a total of 822 Bill Webb banners have been shown at Shea this year. And I just happened to make a remark some months ago that if you wanted to get yours on the air, you should put Bill Webb's name on it. Well, that's what happened. And as we go to the 7th, back in, here's Tim McCarver.
822. Sid Bream flies out. 4 in a row retired by Hernandez. And the Mets are winning this game today, much like they have stormed through the National League East this year. 9-0. Bobby Bonilla, the batter. He's 1 for 1 with a walk. Mets will win 108 ball games this year. Strike 1.
That will tie the 75 Reds for the most since divisional play got underway.
Curveball outside, 1-1 to Barry, or to Bobby Bonilla. Your memories of the season, Steve?
There are so many, it's hard to go back and think where you can begin. I think
2-2.
I think one of the things that just sort of stands out in my mind overall is the pitching staff. In spite of the fact that the Mets lead the league in runs scored and have had an outstanding lineup, everybody really kind of figured they should have a good lineup with the people that they have.
Fly ball right field. It could drop. Tuffle out, and he and Strawberry just miss each other. Strawberry making a left at the last moment.
Whew. This could have been a disaster because Tuffle is unable to really look and see where Strawberry is. It's up to Darryl to get out of the way. Tuffle going for the ball all the way. Darryl probably could have made the play, and it might even have been a little bit easier, but he had to pull up and get out of the way, and fortunately he did so just at the last minute.
1-0 to DiStefano. Tell you, that's like Bobby Unser driving the car that he's going to drive in the Indianapolis 500 to the Indianapolis 500 and almost crashing it
on some street corner somewhere.
Yeah.
Be a shame. Darryl has that sleeve on, the rubberized sleeve on his elbow, and if you remember yesterday during the doubleheader, Darryl was hit on the elbow by a pitch.
And it's 2-1 to DiStefano.
But as I was saying in response to your question, I think the thing that stands out in my mind is the consistency of the starters and, of course, the 2 relievers. There have been very few off performances, really, by any of them, and I think that was, well, a mild surprise in the fact that people like Fernandez, people like Fernandez Sid was still somewhat of a question mark after last season, and Darling, although his record is not that much better in the 1-loss column, has pitched, I think, significantly better than he did last season.
Ground ball inside the bag. Strawberry racing over to it, and he holds DiStefano to a single. The first hit off Fernandez, pardon me. It's almost been a memory every day for you, right?
It really has, and I think that you could, as we look at the ball just inside the line, Darryl does a good job here, although DiStefano's not exactly Mookie Wilson on the base paths of holding him to a single.
Sammy Khalifa, the batter, with 2 out. 9-0 New York.
But the reason that the Mets have dominated and won 108 games and are going to the LCS is because everybody has contributed. And somebody's done something every day that is a highlight in the memory.
Fernandez fields the one hopper back to the mound after 6.5, 9-0 New York. Now here's a word from the United Parcel Service. New York. All 9 runs coming by virtue of the long ball. Carter with the 3-run homer in the first inning. And then a 2-run shot by Ray Knight in the 4th, and a grand salami by Strawberry in the 5th. His first grand slam of the year and the 4th for the Mets.
And we want to again remind you that tomorrow night at 9, right here on WOR-TV, the Mets postseason special. Postseason in the fact that it comes after the regular season and prior to postseason play. Bring it home, Mets. 9 o'clock tomorrow night. You're on Channel 9. Pat Clements into the game. Pitcher number 6 on the day for the Pirates.
Ed Hearn will bat against Pat. Bottom of the 7th, the last game of the season. Ball 1. Ed's first appearance in this game. He's batting .267. 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and has done a very admirable job backing up Gary Carter, a very key spot. Particularly, we talked about memories when Carter went down back in August 12th, I believe. And then he was out for 17 days until September 1st, and Hearn had to fill in, and the Mets not only did well, they were something like 15-4 or 13-4 or something like that.
Well, they had I don't remember what it was either, but it was a significant winning record, and that was an unknown factor at the time as to how well whoever the backup catcher happened to be at the time would respond if Gary did go down. Of course, Barry Lyons spent the first part of the year backing up Carter and had very little chance to play. And Ed Hearn has also gotten a lot of chances to play here in the second half with day games after night games when Davey has rested Gary.
Yeah, so not only has he filled the bill when Gary has been out of there, but he's given Davey Johnson the opportunity to rest Carter, too, with full confidence in the job that Hearn can do. 3-2 to Ed. Line drive to left, and Mike Diaz there, and he makes the catch. Tell you, a significant factor in next Saturday's game might be the sun that we're looking at today. It's going to be the same sun, obviously, next Saturday. A day game. That game starting at 12 o'clock, and then a week from tomorrow, the game will start at 3:30. And that game probably more than the Saturday game.
This October sun really low in the sky.
Yeah.
Hangs right around the rim of the stadium.
Strawberry with a grand slammer his last time up. Also that shadow at 3:30 start. Well, it's 3:30 right now, so that's to start the game. And the pitchers will probably be Nolan Ryan and Bobby Ojeda. Maybe Ryan will. We'll see. Could be Mike Scott if the Astros elect to go with 4 starters.
And a lot of that will be determined by what happens in the first 2 games in Houston.
If the Mets go with 4 and the 5th game is necessary, Dwight Gooden could start that game. Can you imagine facing Gooden with that shadow there?
No thanks.
Or Ryan. Could be Ryan and Gooden.
I remember a game.
Might be 2 no-hitters.
That's right. Double no-hitter. I remember a game in Anaheim Stadium. Nolan Ryan pitched for the California Angels. It started at 5:30 Pacific time in the twilight. And Ryan struck out something like 14. And a lot of guys were waving at balls out of the strike zone because they just never saw him.
You were probably amazed how the other 13 outs
how anybody got it
occurred on balls where guys got the bat on the ball.
Amazing.
Strawberry walks. Darrell appears ready. He has hit 6 home runs now in his last 11 ball games. Howard Johnson, the batter.
Well, the Mets have broken their all-time New York City Major League Baseball attendance record today. They set it last year with 2,751,000 plus. And there's one of the fans in attendance. A total of 33,277, a paid crowd of 32,170. So the Mets have drawn this year 2,762,417 paid folks.
That's in 3 fewer dates than last year also. Fastball on the corner, 1-1.
Both
9-0 New York.
Both last year and this year, the Mets have sold over 3 million tickets. But the National League only counts paid attendance in the park, as opposed to the American League that counts tickets sold.
Swing and a miss, 1-2. It'll be Roger Clemens, speaking of the American League, against Mike Witt of the Angels Tuesday night. They'll play again Wednesday afternoon, and their off day comes on Thursday. So there will be a playoff game every day until one team is eliminated. I guess both teams are eliminated for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless one of the 2 teams win in 5, and then it could be.
Yeah, then
you could have an off day.
The other guys, the other league's travel day could wind up being no game.
Right.
But pretty much starting Tuesday, at least one game every day, and some days 2.
1-2 to Johnson. Swing and a miss. So Johnson down on strike. Strikeout number 1 for Clemens, and the batter will be Ray Knight.
Well, this is tough. Clemens is in the sun. The shadows are almost to the mound, and Howard Johnson trying to catch up to that fastball in a tough shot. Now, there you can see where it might even be tougher now than earlier, because you got sun into shade and then a little strip of sun right before the ball gets into the shaded home plate. Like it's thrown through a strobe light.
Ray Knight hit his 11th home run of the year with Darryl Strawberry aboard in the 4th inning. 9-0 New York. All runs have come on home runs. The Mets with 9 runs on only 5 hits this afternoon. Went too far, 1-1.
And in mentioning, Timmy, the attendance as we look at another fan, I think we also need to express our appreciation to the fans. I mean, it's amazing the way they have turned out and supported this club, not only this year, but the last few years. It's most gratifying to the ball club, to us, to the players, everybody.
Line foul ball. 1-2 tonight.
They've not only come out in record numbers, but they have been, for the most part, extremely and fiercely loyal and supportive of this ball club. I'd say the only downside would be those fans that showed no respect for the field on the night that the Mets clinched it. But other than that one dark spot, it's been an outstanding year from a fan's point of view.
Line base hit, right field. So Ray Knight on there with his 2nd hit of the game. Strawberry stops at second base, and the batter will be Sid Fernandez. You know, Steve, I remember I was a player representative for the Cardinals back in the late 70s. And when divisional play came into being in 1969, it was talked about, obviously, before that. And the director of the Players Association, Marvin Miller, said the major concern of the owners is whether or not the parks will be filled during the playoffs.
Hard to believe.
Can you imagine that feeling being pervasive now
No
in
way.
New York City.
No way.
If they had a park for 2 billion people, they could fill it.